If you have taken my class or taken my class right now, the topic of line weights is something that I go over in almost every class. And it is something that I stress over in almost every class. Good drafting is determined by the quality of the lines as well as line weights. So before we talk about line weights, let's talk about what are lines. All lines serve purpose in drawing, whether they determine the edge of the shape or changing in materials or construction guideline. There are solid lines which delineates the shape of an object, or as I said earlier, the changing of materials. There are dashed lines. Dashed line indicates things that are hidden or things that needs to be removed. There are center lines, there are grid lines, there are break lines, and then there are property line. Yeah, we're gonna emphasize about the solid line and the dashed line. What I mean by line quality, line is determined by how clean it is, how consistent it is, and how clear it is. So when a line is being drawn, the density and the weight should be consistent. When two lines comes together, they should meet and they should not miss each other. So when drafting a dashed line, so all the dashed lines to be uniform. The spacing should be also uniform as well. Okay, so let's talk about line weight. Line weights. That's something that I talk about in almost every class. To me, it is one of the factors that determines drawing is good or bad. One way to look at how line weights plays out in a drawing. Imagine you have to draw a floor plan, which is a horizontal cut. And on that floor plan, there are information such as partitions, walls, columns, furniture, and floor finishes. You have essentially architectural elements, you have furniture elements, and also material elements. And they're in different heights because you are making a horizontal cut looking straight down. So if you have to draw this floor plan with all of this information, how do you let people know what they're looking at? Are they looking at a partition, or are they looking at a piece of furniture, or are they looking at a floor pattern? So one way to do it is to vary your line weights. So how to determine line weights can be how you look at the floor plan from above. The objects that is closest to you will be the darkest. So for instance, the partition and the columns that you have cut will be the closest to you. That will be the thickest and the darkest. You might use your softer or dark leads. The next layer, which is the furniture, is slightly farther away from you. So you might want you to use your medium lead. And then finally, the flooring or the area rug that is furthest away from you on the floor plan. That information can be drafted with your lightest leads. So now you have distinguished the three layers of information. So let's go to the board. I'll show you some examples of using different leads to show you the different line weights on a drawing. So here in this floor plan, you can see various line weights or how dark the lines are. And you can also see the quality of the lines, how consistent they are. As you can see, the partitions in this floor plan is drawn the darkest and the most pronounced. The furniture, slightly lighter. The doors and the door swing is also on another line weight, lighter than the partition. So the information is clearly delineated by line weights. Some other types of line beside the solid line, you can see there are dashed lines. Dashed lines that indicate things are either hidden, or in this case, in the kitchen, the dashed line indicates there's an upper cabinet, and the dashed line here indicates there is a shelf or a coat rod above. Here's another example of a floor plan. So you can see the partitions is in one line weight, they're the darkest, and the furniture is slightly lighter. And there's dashed line indicating things are hidden, and in this case, things are above. You can move up to the second floor, you can see what the second floor looks like. So this is this part that is above here. And on the second floor, as you can see, the line weights, the partitions is darker than the furniture. And notice how crisp all the lines are. And the dashed line is indicating there is a coat rod or things that are hidden. This is the elevation The darkest line, as you can see here, is the ground line, indicate that the structure is sitting on this ground. I'll draw some lines and show you more examples. I'm going to do a quick demo of drawing the types of lines and the quality of lines. So I'm using an F here, and I'm really pressing really hard here just to show you that this is kind of like the darkest line from an F. I'm going to vary my weight a little bit, not press so hard. You can see it's slightly lighter, and then I'm going to really gently. So you can see even on an F, I can vary my line weight from dark to medium and very light. There are dashed lines. I'm still rotating my pencil and trying to be very consistent with the length of the dash and the spacing. So there's, I guess, this medium size, and then you can have a longer dash. There's center lines showing the center of an object of the space. It's essentially a long line with a small dash. And then do a grid line. So let's just maybe do a grid, let's say 1/2 inch grid. So notice I'm not using my scale as a straight edge, I'm using it as a measuring tool. Now you can just draw your grid. There's other types of lines that's useful. A break line. A break line is something like that. I mean, so these are probably the most common types of lines that we use as designers. There are other types of lines. So let's talk about how lines should meet. Let's say I'm drawing a 2x2 square. So I would just draw a line first. I'll measure it. I'm barely putting any weight with this lead here. So it's very, very light. So I'm really just setting up my construction line. Only I can see it. So now you can draw, you can finish a line and maybe match that darkness. So twirling my pencil, right? And in the vertical, I am moving slightly my body over. Notice my arm. My arm is actually almost parallel with the straight edge. So these lines meet. So there you have it. Secret to drafting is practice. What do you think it was? Now you got this.